Hi, welcome to the channel. I'm Lucid Flux, and in this video we're going to show the best elemental well builds for Warlocks in Season of the Lost. When elemental wells were first introduced, they felt rather lackluster. Compared to Charge with Light and Warmind builds, they were harder to proc, you needed to go chase down the wells, and the benefits just didn't match the effort. In other words, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Each season has introduced more and more well mods, pushing them further into relevancy. The new mods that have elevated wells to the next level of power are Bountiful Wells, Seeking Wells, Well of Striking, Well of Ordnance, and Elemental Shards. Bountiful Wells lets you create more wells. Well of Striking and Well of Ordnance make each of those wells grant more melee and grenade energy respectively. Elemental Shards turn Stasis Shards into Stasis Wells. And Seeking Wells helps eliminate the biggest drawback to using wells in the first place by making the wells come to you. I've been experimenting with well builds all season, and I'm going to share what I think are the most powerful builds for each element. First up is top Tree Voidwalker, Attunement of Chaos. The exotic we're using is Controverse Hold, which by itself gives us almost all we need to have infinite Vortex grenades. When you overcharge a Vortex grenade, it lasts long enough to proc Controverse Hold twice, which when paired with Grenade Kickstart and the well mods we're about to talk about means you've always got a grenade ready. The combat mods for this build are as follows. Elemental Ordnance, so every grenade kill will spawn a well. Bountiful Wells, well now each of those kills will spawn 2 wells. Seeking Wells, now those wells will track right to you. Elemental Charge, now you'll become charged with light from those wells. And Protective Light, which grants 50% damage reduction when your shield breaks, consuming all stacks of Charge with Light. And thanks to the previous mods, you will always be charged with light with this build. This build has everything a Warlock could want. Endless grenades that cause your enemies to explode, a powerful instant cast super, and insane survivability thanks to Protective Light. Other mods you'll want to run with the build are Ashes to Assets, so all of your grenade kills will give more super energy. Grenade Kickstart to return a nice chunk of grenade energy on cast, and Innervation, so Orbs of Power will grant more grenade energy. All of this together will guarantee you always have a grenade ready to melt your enemies, create an insane amount of wells that seek to you, get you charged with light so you always have Protective Light ready. This truly is a complete build. Next up is Bottom Tree Dawnblade, Attunement of Flame. Now, I went over a variation of this build in my previous video, but I have since honed it in even further. While the grenade return doesn't quite match Controverse Hold and Vortex grenades, Dawnblade can create more wells, and each of those wells will give back more grenade energy thanks to Well of Ordnance. Again, our exotic of choice will be Dawn Chorus. Combat mods are going to be 2 Elemental Ordnance, Explosive Well Maker, Well of Ordnance, and Bountiful Wells. I found this combination to consistently create the most wells, and thanks to Well of Ordnance, each well will be more potent, giving us back more grenade energy. While you don't have the survivability or seeking wells of the Void build, the ad clear is a bit better, thanks to the chain reaction explosions, and the super is a bit more versatile. And while this build may not have Protective Light, you do have Phoenix Dive, which is an on-demand heal. And now on to Stormcaller. This is a more unique build than the previous two. We're going to be using Bottom Tree, Attunement of the Elements, which got a rather substantial buff this season. Landfall is now much more devastating on cast, your Arc Souls are more potent, and Electrostatic Surge provides you with a movement speed buff when near allies. This build is all about high uptime for your super, and it's all because of Rising Storm, which recharges your grenade, melee, and super. When paired with Double Hands-On, provides a ridiculous amount of super energy for just one charged melee. The exotic we're going to run is Storm Dancer's Embrace, which causes Storm Trance to deal more damage with each kill and refund super energy when Storm Trance ends. it's rather easy to get enough kills so that you're refunded 50% of your entire super. This is going to be another combination of wells and charge with light, which allows us to have infinite charge melees to get our super back insanely quick. I've been able to have back-to-back supers in 10 seconds with this build. The combat mods we want are Melee Well Maker, so each powered melee will give us a well. Bountiful Wells, well now each powered melee will give us 2 wells. Well of Striking, each of those wells will grant more melee energy. Elemental Charge, now we become charged with light from those wells. And Heavy Handed, we are refunded half our melee energy consuming a stack of charge with light. These mods create an infinite loop where you never run out of melee energy, allowing you to take advantage of Rising Storm to build up your super very fast. Your super is stronger thanks to Storm Dancer's Embrace, and you'll get 50% of your super energy back afterwards, leaving you that much closer to the next super. It's not ideal in every activity as it requires you to be in melee range, but it can be an incredibly potent and fun build to play. Finally, we've arrived at Stasis. Now, Stasis is a bit of an outlier compared to the other elements. With Warlocks, the easiest, most dependable way to generate wells is with our grenades, but Stasis grenades don't kill, which means we need to find another way. Luckily, this season introduced the mod Elemental Shards, which causes Stasis shards to count as Stasis wells. Warlocks also got the aspect Glacial Harvest, which when freezing targets spawns Stasis shards. So between our melee and Bleakwatcher turrets, we have very reliable methods for freezing targets to spawn Stasis shards that act as Stasis wells thanks to Elemental Shards. Got all that? Okay, let's look at the aspects and fragments first. We're going to want Bleakwatcher and Glacial Harvest, which will give us 2 fragment slots each. For fragments, we're going to want Whisper of Durance, which will make our slows and turrets last longer. Whisper of Conduction will make all those Stasis shards we're spawning track to us, as well as give 10 intellect and 10 resilience. Whisper of Torment will give us grenade energy each time we take damage. And for the last slot, I like to run Whisper of Refraction, which when defeating slowed or frozen enemies gives us rift energy, so we almost always have a rift available. For combat mods, we're going to want Elemental Shards, Elemental Charge, and we're going to want to run 3 firepower mods, which gives us almost half our grenade energy back when we throw down a turret. Since those turrets are constantly freezing targets, we're going to have a steady stream of Stasis shards that will track to us and recharge our abilities. For even more consistent grenade recharge, I like to run Stasis with a Demolitionist weapon. So for this season, look out for auto rifles, bows, and fusion rifles with this perk, as they are the chosen champion weapons for the season. This season's artifact also has 2 incredible mods for dealing with champions and returning ability energy. Thermoclastic Strike allows our melee to stun champions and also refunds our entire melee when stunning an overload champion. And Resonance Siphon, which grants a large chunk of Stasis ability energy every time we stun a champion. This creates a pretty ridiculous loop of being able to lock down a champion and spawn a stupid amount of turrets to lock down the entire room. While not crucial to the build, additional mods we may want to run are Hands-On on the helmet and Innervation on our boots. When not dealing with champions, we can slot in Double Bomber in our boots and Bolstering Detonation in our gauntlets. This lets our turrets give us rift energy on each hit, and when we throw down our rift, we'll get a huge chunk of grenade energy back. Put all this together and you have an incredibly potent build with fast grenade and ability regen from a constant stream of Stasis shards, Firepower, Demolitionist, and Resonance Siphon. Wait, we didn't even include an exotic in this build. But that's the beauty of Stasis. We have everything we need between the aspects, fragments, and mods to create a fully self-sustaining build before even adding an exotic. A few options you might want to look at are Eye of Another World, which is what is essentially 2 free tiers of cooldown reduction for your grenade, melee, and rifts, and this stacks even if you're already at tier 10. For more survivability, you can run the Stag, which you will almost always benefit from with your fast rift cooldowns. Alternatively, you can run Verity's Brow, which will give your grenades a stacking cooldown reduction with each Stasis weapon kill. Now this can add up to faster grenade recharge than Eye of Another World, but it locks you into a Stasis weapon which are very limited in selection at the moment. In the future, I want to do a deep dive comparison between Eye of Another World and Verity's Brow to see how they stack up and how many kills you need to get with Verity's to meet and exceed Eye of Another World's baseline cooldown reduction. And that wraps up this Warlock build video looking at some incredibly strong elemental well builds. I hope you learned something new and feel free to take these builds and experiment further. There's many tweaks you can make to make each build your own. Thanks, and don't forget to do the YouTube thing, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Au revoir.